G'day there guys, it's your Aussie Hubby Markee, back at it again with another r/entitled parents video. Now if you love me as much as I love you, then you know what to do. I want you to mosey on over to that old like button and tackle it like bloody Crocodile Dundee. Maybe even chuck an Aussie flag down in the comments. Now with that said, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a Barbie on the prawn, and a prawn on the Barbie, and get ready for some bloody Karens. Now, our first post is by Segra117. Titled, Trade Pizza for Partially Eaten Sandwich. Not sure if this fits here, but here we go. When I was in high school, I worked at a pizza parlor. One day, a lady had ordered a hot sandwich. We made those too, and decided after one bite that she wanted a slice of pizza instead. She sends her son, who was younger than me, to do the exchange. The kid says he wants a slice of pizza instead, and I say sure, no problem, and begin to cut him a slice. I ring him up, and he tries to hand me the sandwich. I look at him and ask him what he's doing. He says he's giving me back the sandwich for the slice of pizza. I ask him what's wrong with it, and he says nothing. I politely inform him that we cannot do a refund on a partially eaten meal, and if he wants the pizza, he will be charged for it. He gets this sheepish look on his face and wanders back to his table with the sandwich. Next thing I know, the mum is at the register with the sandwich, hot about how we won't do the exchange. About this time, a co-worker, who's about the mum's age, overhears and says to her that there will not be a refund, have a nice day. She gets ruffled feathers and wants to know my name and the name of my co-worker as she gets out a pen. I say sure, my name is blank, and that was blank, the owner. She stops writing, glares at me, and leaves in a huff. I smiled. And our next post is by Woody Woodvine, titled, Both a mother and father called the cops on me because I was a nice person and wouldn't give them my car. Okay, a little bit of background. Where I live, there is a car show held in memory of someone in our town who died of brain cancer, and all proceeds go to cancer research. The show is held at a raceway nearby where everyone is welcoming and kids get in for free, while the parents have to pay $2 Australian to get in, while the people entering the car show or are going to go around the track pay a premium. Now, the story. I had entered my car into the car show and paid extra for it to go around the track during the time event. The car show part was a few hours before the warm-up before time trials, where anyone entering could do 3 practice laps to get used to the course. Now, this is where the child came in. Before the practice laps start, the kid, entitled kid, said he liked my car, a 1977 Leyland Mini, and started asking me about it and how I got it. All was normal. My family who was with me said I should let him sit in it, and I agreed. But I thought I could take it a step further and let the kid sit in the passenger seat during one of my warm-up laps. I said to him I would let him go around the track with me on account I have his parents' permission. When he heard that, his face lit up and he went to go get his parents. I thought all was normal until this happened. I was waiting around for the kid and his parents to show up. I hadn't moved from my spot and was doing some pre-checks on my car before I went out. 20 minutes had passed, and I thought it was taking a little too long for him to come back to give me an answer. But I thought I would wait a little longer just in case he got lost. Next thing I know, another 20 minutes have passed, then another 20. I had waited an hour for him to show back up and needed to get on the track. My car was ready half an hour ago, and I had already gotten permission from the race organizers to have a young passenger for one lap of the practice run. I had gotten tired and went to start the car when the kid showed up with his parents, entitled parent. They instantly asked me if I was up to something. By the way, I just turned 18 at the time and had a girlfriend with me at the race keeping track of my times. I told them I just wanted to give the kid a chance to see what it was like in a road race car, just like how someone else let me when I was his age. After hearing that, they took a few steps back and started taking, but they took 10 minutes to do so. Tired of waiting, I told them it was final call. It's either a yes or a no, and I need to get on the track now. Entitled parents gave me a stink eye and finally said entitled kid could. I had to get him in and put the 5 point on, and we headed for the first practice run. I told him to hold on and don't scream while I'm driving. He seemed to understand, but during the lap he did the exact opposite. Once it was over, I had a headache and was still trying to be nice and asked him if he had fun. He said he did and wanted to go again. I said from now on, I had to be by myself, and he started yelling at me and got out of the car, slamming my door behind me. I had had it at this point, and just went to do my last 2 laps. Once they were over, we stopped for a quick break, and this is where everything went down. First up, I had the entitled parents come up to yell at me for not letting the kid go again. I explained to them that I technically wasn't allowed, and only got permission to do 1 lap with him. They were livid. Next thing I know is that one of the organisers said to them that their kid could go around the track in one of the rental track cars with his father, but it would cost $300. The entitled kid said no, and that he wanted to go around in my car, but I said that he couldn't. Next thing I know is, entitled parent, the father, is yelling how it's a rip-off and we are wasting the money on people who are going to die anyway. I lost it at that point, and told them to leave. But the organizer said that what they said was fine and we don't need to make this work. I left with the organizer after that to avoid more of a confrontation. Skip forward half an hour and the time trial is about to start. And guess who came back? The entitled parent mother. She said she was sorry and wanted to talk. I said later, and she yelled out $400. She was offering $400 for my entire car. I told her no and to get out of here. Next thing I know is the other entitled parent rocks up and says $700 for the car. I said no, and that I have more money in the car than they probably have in their bank. The father responded saying that my sad, rusted piece of crap is not worth more than $1,000 and that I would get more from crushing it than selling it. I told them to leave as they would not like what would happen next if they get in my way. I hopped in my car and drove off right past them. Once the time trial was over, I went to park in my spot to find my girlfriend and grandfather being talked to by cops while the entitled parents were pointing at me. 2 officers came over and told me to turn off and get out of the vehicle. I did so and asked what was going on. The entitled parents called the cops, claiming I stole their car and touched entitled kid when I had him in the car. I told the cops the car was in my name, and I have footage inside from a camera that I use in my car that I use for studying my driving techniques. They asked to see the footage, and I willingly showed them. They say I did nothing, and I had my parents bring down the proof of sale for my car. The entitled parents still tried to screw me over until the father hit a bystander. The cops arrested him for assault and took the wife in as an accomplice. I haven't heard anything from them, but now one of the officers from the incident are a good friend who I go to drag races with. So at least something good came out of this. Now that's an Aussie story if I ever did see one. And our next post is by Cat Vrixis. No, Karen, your kid cannot have my asthma medication. So this happened to me today, and I'm still scratching my head for the logic. Mandatory on my phone and non-English speaker disclaimer. The cast are me, Karen, and Hero Bus Driver. So, I am a 34-year-old Dutch guy without a driver's license. It sucks, but Dutch public transport kinda rocks, so for almost 2 years now, I've been using it to get to my job, and in those 2 years, I've never really had a bad experience that doesn't involve a late bus and rain. Until today, that is. Because of the pandemic, bus schedules have been adjusted to just once or twice per hour. It is far from ideal, but I understand why. Kids are not going to school, so the bus company would lose money letting empty buses drive. But when it came to the schedule, I drew the short straw. Because if I wanted to go by my bus from home to work, I would be traveling 90 minutes instead of 40, and I would arrive at work 30 minutes earlier than normal. To me, this is not an option. So I decided to cycle to work halfway. That way I cut 30 minutes out of the trip and I get to work at my normal time. The one problem today is that I am asthmatic, and it was quite windy out this morning. So I get to the bus station this morning already struggling for breath. I quickly lock my bike and walk towards the terminal, focusing on my breathing. 5 minutes later, the bus arrives. I greet the driver and sit down. A minute later, our Karen of the story enters the bus. She takes a seat on the row next to mine, and a few minutes later, the bus driver starts the bus, and off we go. I feel like in struggling for breath, and while coughing, I quickly get my inhaler plus chamber out, assemble it, and start using it as I struggle to breathe. It instantly works, and I feel precious oxygen enter my lungs. This piques Karen's attention. "What are you doing?" she asks. "Taking my medication. I have asthma, and with this weather, it was quite a struggle getting here. I replied. Does it help with breathing? She asks, and I nod my head. Well, yes. She extended to the E. I have kids at home, and with corona, I don't want them to suffocate if they get it, so give me the inhaler. You can get a new one. And she holds out her hand. Oh boy. Not going to happen, lady, I said in my most dry and mocking tone. I need these meds, and they don't help for corona. I don't care. Give it here, she says as she thrusts out her hand again. My kids need it more. I again tell her no, and put my medication back in my backpack and try to put on my headset. This is where Karen goes full entitled parent and grabs my backpack and starts going through it. Luckily, the hero bus driver was paying attention, and we all lurch forwards as he hits the brakes. He stops the bus, stands up, and in his drill instructor voice says, "Lady, give the man his backpack back, now." There was absolutely no doubt of the authority in his voice, and the lady turns tomato red as she hands back the backpack. I thought that was it, but oh boy, I was wrong. I'm not going to type this in caps, but our hero yelled every word. Why on earth would you think that someone's asthma medication would help against corona? Besides, you saw the man use it. What if he has the virus but didn't get sick? Also, he used it. You're gross, lady. Get off the bus. Now. The lady looks like a deer in the headlights, but doesn't move. Get off now, hero yells. Again. Finally, the lady got up and out of the bus. I thanked our hero bus driver as he sits back down, and we go on our way again. As the bus drives off, I saw the lady on her phone. No assaults, police, destruction of property, so it could have been much worse. Still, I wish I could tell this to Karen. Too bad we weren't out of the city yet, you disgusting tramp. Whoa, vicious. Alright, and our next post is by user StrontiumMutt75. Titled, Karen gets her just desserts from a tough-as-nails pregnant woman who I offered my seat to on the train. This was about a year ago. First off, let me say, unlike my last post in this awesome sub, this only involved 4 people. Me, pregnant lady, a black lady, and Karen, a mother of 4 with probably 4 Jesus Christ! Which entitled her to 4 different CSA payments, so the lazy, ugly crap expletive can spend all day sitting on her ass watching Jeremy Kyle. Yeah, that was very loaded. What's wrong with people? I've noticed you call entitled mothers Karen. Can someone explain that to me, please? So, it's 5:45 PM on a Friday evening. I'm on a train home after a pretty chilled day at work. I'm looking forward to spending a quiet weekend with my wife and husband. Wife being my actual wife, my husband being my Xbox. It's a marriage of convenience, like Chuck and Larry. So, first stop, New Cross Gate. Karen gets on, her double-barreled pram with the youngest of her brood, the 2 older ones on foot. Noticing the train seats are packed, she rolls her eyes and parks the pram right in front of the doors, so no other passengers can get on or off without having to ask her to move it. Pulls out her tacky, covered iPhone and starts Facebooking, probably moaning that she can't find a seat on the train. So, 2 stops after this, Honor Oak Park. Pregnant lady gets on the train, still no seats. So I stand and say, "Would you like a seat?" To which she replies, "Thank you so much." I notice out of the corner of my eye, Karen is triggered. Karen's like, "Excuse me, why didn't you offer me a seat when I got on?" You didn't ask. Neither did she. She didn't have to. I've got 4 children here. My life ain't easy. I was about to say something back, but pregnant lady decided to jump in. Pregnant lady says, "Yes, must be hard work dragging your fat ass from the bed to the sofa every day." Ooh! There was a deathly silence, then a few stifled giggles. Opposite where pregnant lady was sitting, a smartly dressed black lady smirked and nodded as to say, "Well said." Karen's jaw dropped. "Don't you speak to me like that. Who the hell do you think you are?" Pregnant lady says, "I'm a working mum-to-be who pays her taxes and is equally disappointed as the rest of these people that their tax money goes towards paying your benefits. I'm also the wife of a hard-working man who also pays taxes, and is as screwed off as I am about your milking the system. Now tell me, who the fudging hell are you? Karen is now raging. She aggressively walks towards us. My back goes up. I don't make a habit of hitting women, but I will block one who would attack another woman. Unless that woman is my wife, then I'll knock her opponent's spark out without a second thought. However, I didn't have to. A smartly dressed black lady stands up and coolly says, "Go back to your children and shut the frick up before I turn your insides out." I look at the pregnant lady. She looks at me. Guy sitting next to the pregnant lady gets up off at the next stop. Pregnant lady grabs my arm and literally swings me into the empty seat. Karen looks at the three of us with entitled contempt before leading her kids, none of whom made a comment during the incident, off the train, swearing and muttering under her breath. Black lady sits back down and looks at me. "You, sir, are a gentleman. I can see that. Hence why I jumped in to save you from having to fight her." Me. "Thank you, I appreciate that." Black lady nods at me, then looks at pregnant lady. Black lady. "And you, darling, that was brilliant what you said. You don't hold back." Pregnant lady says, "South London, born and bred." "Same here." Both ladies look at me. "Same here." So, cut a long story short. Both ladies left the train at the same stop, leaving me with something to tell my wife when I got home. Probably the best story in today's episode. Alright, and our next post is by Ghost of the Snow, titled "Mother Tries to Justify Stolen Gifts." This is a little off the content I normally post on my account, but some friends and I were chatting and this story came up. One of them told me I should post it here, so I will. This happened about 6 months ago, when I was home from college. One of my favourite things to do in the city I live in is to visit the aquarium where I can spend all day. The jellyfish are my favourites, but that's besides the point. At the end of my trip, I text our group chat and ask if anyone wanted anything from the gift shop, which they did. My total was around $80, which I didn't mind spending on gifts. I put them all into a bag that I brought with me that day and set off for the train station to get back home. Before I go to my line, I decide I'd stop in this little mall-type area in the city, which led to a train station, so it wasn't too far out of the way. I meander for a bit, looking at the shops and restaurants, before eventually settling for a Blizzard. It was that one with the hella chocolate fudge bits in it, I can't remember the name, and set my stuff down beside me. I'd like to listen to music and watch videos while I sit and eat, so I had my headphones on and the volume pretty loud. So as I'm eating my delicious treat, some little brat comes walking past and grabs my bag from the ground. I was in a tall seat, and the bag was on the ground with my back to it, so I'll admit that much was my fault. But here is where it gets interesting. So I finish eating and go to grab my stuff, realizing it's gone. So I check every place I stopped, the bathroom, different shops, and all the food spots I visited, even if it was just to look at the menu. No sign of my bag. So I start to panic. What am I going to tell my friends? I don't want to disappoint them after promising treasures from the big city. Just as I was about to give up, I spot it, next to the aforementioned brat eating with his family. So I go over to them and the interaction goes like this. "Excuse me, but that bag down there is mine. Thank you for finding it." Mum says, "Excuse me, that is my son's bag. Leave us alone and stop trying to take it." "Yeah, back off, idiot, it's mine." Already some bad parenting has shown itself. I don't mind cussing, but the kid was maybe 12 to 13, and shouldn't be insulting strangers. Well, no, that's my bag, and I know it is. It's got all my stuff in it. I'm gonna tell you one more time to leave us alone and stop harassing my son, or I'll call the police. Great, it's gonna be like this, I thought to myself. Me, to the mum, says, "You don't have to do that, ma'am, I'll take care of that," and wave over a cop who has been watching the whole ordeal, probably in case it got violent for some reason. I'm a rather large guy with an angry resting face, so I understand. I should mention that her husband stayed quiet the whole time, probably not wanting a part in his wife's mess. Cop says, "What seems to be the issue here?" Before I could explain, the mum pipes up. "Hi, yes, this man is threatening us because he thinks my son's bag is his, but I'm pretty sure he's just trying to steal it. Kinda strange that I'd be the one to call the cop over, but whatever, lady." Cop says to me, "Is this true?" He said that with a bit of a sigh. This probably wasn't his first encounter like this, So I'm like, no, it's actually the opposite. This child stole my bag, and now his mum is trying to defend him. I doubt he even knows what's in the bag. I was about to ask them to tell me, but now that you're here, officer, maybe you can act as a mediator. Alright, sure. So I hand him the bag and ask him to look around in it. After he does that, I ask the kid to go first. He doesn't get a single thing right other than my charger. Huh, interesting. So I guess it's your turn. I smile, then I list off all the items I bought, along with their price, as the receipt was still in there and I had just bought them, so I was able to remember them accurately. Cop's like, well sir, looks like you were right. If you don't mind, I'd like to chat with these folks. By now, I could see beads of sweat on the kid's head and the mother was getting furious. Then I turned to the kid. Maybe don't steal other people's stuff next time, idiot. The mother was red in the face from anger, and the kid was on the verge of tears, cause now he had a cop getting ready to lecture him, and his parents will probably ground him until he's 40. But I don't give a crap. Idiot stole my stuff. Anyways, that's my story about an entitled parent. Wish people did something to correct their little klepto's behavior, rather than try to defend them, cause not everyone will take the crap of an angry mum. And our next post is by Taipan821, titled, Entitled Mother versus Security and Hotel Staff and Police and the State and the Senate. So, a previous job of mine was being a security guard at a pub, mainly stopping drunks and minors entering the pokies room. This is automatically very, very Aussie, I love it. So I'm minding my business. It's 1:30 in the morning, bar closes at 2, and all is good. A mother turns up with a toddler in a stroller and walks to the entrance. Sorry ma'am, juveniles can't come in and you have to leave. I gesture to the big sign that says no unsupervised children in the car park. Mother leaves and child walks in, firmly exclaiming that I am there, therefore the child is supervised. I neither have the qualifications nor the insurance to look after children. I walk in and get the hotel's manager's attention. We approach entitled mother and inform her that she has to leave due to her breaching conditions of entry. Her toddler is still outside alone. We inform her that she has now been instructed to leave, and if she refuses, then the police will be called. Of course, she refuses. The manager makes the call, refusal to leave licensed premises, and child abandonment. Let's just say the police arrived promptly. Entitled mother has just entered the woman's bathroom, so while one officer stays with the child, the other officer and I stand outside of the woman's bathroom and wait. She walks out straight into us. Some insults thrown at us. She is firmly escorted outside and it becomes a police matter. Report given, CCTV footage handed over, and they all depart. The mother throwing more insults. Business as usual, folks. Alright, and our next post is by the user, The Peasant King M, titled, How an Entitled Mother Lost All Her Family and Died Alone. Yeah, we've got a really happy one today. The entitled mother in this story is my aunt's, father's sister's, mother-in-law, my cousin's grandmother. Ever since my aunt married her husband, an awesome guy, his mother had been very critical of her. She was a strong woman, she had survived on her own in the 1940s rural Mexico, before marrying a doctor who made good money. Even then, she insisted on being independent, kept her job and managed her finances, all while raising my aunt's husband and his siblings almost on her own. Instead of making her a humble person understanding of other people's difficulties, she became a bitter woman who hated everyone who had it easier than her. It didn't help that her husband died at a young age. Dealing with her was also very difficult. You were either with her or against her. She controlled her children with an iron fist and tried to control every single aspect of their lives. Who befriended them, who they dated, where they traveled, what they studied. She was never outright abusive or rude to my auntie, but it was obvious that she didn't like her, or any other of her daughter and sons-in-law for that matter. But she was very nice to her grandchildren. She liked giving them nice gifts and cooking all of their favorite dishes. The first time I met her, I thought she was the sweetest old lady for how she treated my cousin. It wasn't until she lashed at me for disagreeing with her on the tiniest thing that I realized how she was. September 19th, 2017. A strong earthquake shook Mexico City. Hundreds of people lost their lives and thousands lost their homes. Among them, my aunt and her family. They went to the only place they could go to her mother-in-law's house. My cousin was the most affected. She witnessed how a part of her high school collapsed, killing a couple of students, and she lost her home. At first, my cousin's grandmother was delighted to have them home. She thought my aunt would be her servant, while she could spend all her day talking to her son and spoiling my cousin. But my aunt and her husband still had to go to work, and my cousin was in no condition to be spoiled. Her grandmother was furious. 2 days after the earthquake, my auntie realized my cousin was getting worse, and called a psychological support line established specifically to help those affected by the earthquake. My cousin's grandmother heard them and lashed against her. If she had dealt with much worse, including 2 devastating earthquakes, more and had survived, my cousin could too. It's just that she was too weak and pathetic. My aunt tried to defend her, only to be met with insults and the implication that her husband's worst mistake was marrying her. When my cousin's father arrived, they all argued for hours. He demanded an apology from his mother, who responded by throwing them out of her house. They had to go and live with a family friend for a couple of months. He promised that he would never talk to his mother until he apologized to his wife and daughter. Instead, my cousin's grandmother tried to have her other children on her side. None of them agreed with her, they all knew what had happened, and everyone sided with my cousin's family. She was furious. She demanded all her children to apologize for disagreeing with her. When none did, she cut them off. She wouldn't cave in, she wouldn't accept that she was in the wrong. She would rather never talk to any of her children or grandchildren again than admit that she was wrong. Cue to yesterday. My cousin received a call from her grandmother's brother. She had died earlier from COVID-19 complications. None of her children knew she had caught it. None of her grandchildren knew she was in the hospital. She had finally died alone. But at least she didn't have to admit that she was wrong. That's really grim, Jesus Christ. And our last post is by user MysteriousSkin3, titled, "Mum thought a new vacuum was more important than my college." My friend suggested I put my story here, so here it goes, smiley face. This took place a few years ago when I was still in college for my bachelor's degree. For several years, I waitressed/cleaned houses and really pinched pennies, putting any extra money into savings for college. I didn't qualify for any assistance because my parents claimed me as independent and they made too much money. But I am very lucky to not have student loans, having saved enough from working to pay as I went. The last year of my bachelor's degree, I was hardly living at home. I lived with my boyfriend most of the time, helping with those expenses. I also helped with things around the house, particularly for my mum who lived alone, paid all my own bills like car insurance and such, and at this point was buying all my own food and toiletries. I'm explaining all of this for background, not at all to complain, because I was happy to do so, and as an adult who was able, I felt it was my responsibility. Around rolled tax season, and I approached my mum, asking her if she could not claim me on her taxes this time, considering everything stated above. Her and my dad took turns each claiming my brother and I on their taxes as dependents. I told her not being claimed would really help out with getting money for college to finish up my final year, as the money I saved was pretty much depleted. She agreed without any issues, and I couldn't have been any happier. I don't remember specifics, but I was having some issues with financials forms online, and expressed my worries that I was having trouble figuring it out. 2 days later, and with help from a university counselor, it was all good and well. I don't even think a full week passed between our initial conversation and the conversation below, and the deadlines for my taxes. It was still a good ways off. I came to my mum's house, let her know I'd gotten it figured out, and would be submitting my paperwork. She says, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I thought you said it wasn't going to work out." Confused at her apology, I said I was having difficulties, but got some help and it's fine now. But I didn't think it would work, so I claimed you on my taxes and turned them in yesterday. I was quiet for a minute. She couldn't have followed up with me in those couple of days to confirm it would work out before filing? It isn't like I kept her waiting for weeks. Okay, whatever, it's okay. It can still be okay. So I asked her if she could give me the money that she would get from claiming me, since she wouldn't have been expecting it this time around anyway, and it would really help me. I pointed out how I pay for all my own things and don't really live at home anymore, and that I've worked so hard. Well, honey, really, I'm so tight on money right now. I really could use the money. I know I don't talk finances with you a whole lot, but honestly, this would help me. I was dumbfounded, then quietly furious, but ultimately thought, I don't want my mum to struggle, so it's okay. I'll figure it out. I tried really hard not to let it bother me until her tax money came in, and she bought $1,000 plus worth of small home appliances, the most expensive being a vacuum cleaner when hers worked perfectly fine. In fact, she offered me her old one because it works perfectly fine. I just wanted an upgrade. In the end, my dad and stepmom finally felt so bad for me in this situation, they gave me a couple $100 to put towards school, which was a blessing I didn't expect but was so grateful for, though it barely made a dent in my college tuition. Basically, that's where the story ends. I never really talk to my mum anymore about it because she has done so much that's hurt me. I try to pick my battles. It was validation enough for me that other people in my life saw that it was wrong too. Alright, that's where I'm going to end today's episode, guys. I hope you enjoyed this episode of r/EntitledParents. Tell me what you thought about it down in the comments below. I'd love to know your opinions and what you thought of these entitled parents. This has been Markee, guys. I hope you have a good day, night, sleep, whatever you've been up to, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye!